By the way, when the tragedies happened in Louisiana and Minnesota, do you know that 21 black people were murdered across the United States? Was there any reporting on that?
There was a black officer who was killed today. But
was there any reporting on that?
Sheriff, please, let's just keep the volume down here. So I understand, and listen, I'm
looking at 3 dead cops this week, Sheriff, and I'm looking at 5 last year. You trying to tell me to keep it down?
Just please, if you will just please, we can keep it civil. So.
Hi everybody, welcome back to our channel. The guy named Raymond sent this video. He said, "Hello ladies, I enjoy your content. Tell me what you think about this interaction the sheriff had with Don Lemon." Okay.
3 officers dead, 3 wounded in Baton Rouge. A really tough day for Baton Rouge and for the country, really. Here to talk about how to keep our police safe is Sheriff David Clarke of Milwaukee County, Wisconsin. He is going to be speaking at the Republican convention tomorrow night. Sheriff, thank you very much for that horrific day. I spoke to the heads of the sheriff department, the police department, and the state police down there, and they told us how their hearts were reeling. Their message is peace and coming together in the country. What's your message?
You don't believe that for 1 minute, do you?
That their message is?
Yeah.
That's what they said to me.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe them. Of course
Any
I believe them
protests
when they say
over the
that.
deaths of these cops today in Baton Rouge?
I don't know that. I don't know that.
Any riots or protests over the police officers in Dallas, Texas?
What are you asking?
It's a pretty simple question.
I asked you if what's your message to the people. Their message is one of peace. What is your message?
My message has been clear from day one 2 years ago. This anti-cop sentiment from this hateful ideology called Black Lives Matter has fueled this rage against the American police officer. I predicted this 2 years ago. So what I want to know,
okay, Sheriff.
do I want to know?
With all due respect, do you know that this was because of that?
Yes, I do.
As a law enforcement officer?
I've been watching this for 2 years. I predicted this. This anti-police rhetoric sweeping the country has turned out some hateful things inside of people that are now playing themselves out on the American police officer. I want to know, with all of the black-on-black violence in the United States of America, by the way, when the tragedies happened in Louisiana and Minnesota, do you know that 21 black people were murdered across the United States? Was there any reporting on that?
There was a black officer who was killed today. But
was there any reporting on that?
Sheriff, please, let's just keep the volume down here. So I understand, and listen.
So what's going to happen right now? It looks like Don Lemon is about to gloss over that fact that the sheriff just brought up about black-on-black crime. Yeah, he's not going to want to talk about that because the truth is, the numbers are that we are killing each other at a much faster rate than any cop could kill us. It doesn't make the news. So Don is going to gloss over that because he knows Don's not dumb. He's a very smart man, actually. But he knows that what the sheriff is saying is 100% correct. But he can't talk about it.
Yeah, because it's what you call golden handcuffs.
Yep, that's it.
Golden handcuffs. Rich people who tell them what to say. You cannot be, you can't be independent thought in the media.
No, don't do
you
that.
have to do what you're saying, and they give you a $10 million a year
paycheck, and then you're good to go as long as you be quiet and don't say anything real.
I'm looking at 3 dead cops this week,
Sheriff,
and I'm looking at 5 last year. You trying to tell me to keep it down?
Just please, if you will just please, we can keep it civil. So, because the message to people at home, I'm sure you want, is one of civility.
I wish, Don, I wish you had that message of civility
have a conversation
toward this hateful ideology, these purveyors of hate.
You don't know what my message is.
That's
what I
what
want
they
to say
do.
to you is,
these people preach vile and virtue
in
the name of
We're going to go to break,
hate.
and we'll be right back. All I want to do is have a conversation. I can't have a conversation with you if we're both talking at the same time. What it sounds like to me is that you're accusing me of violence and supporting something, a narrative that I'm not necessarily in support of. And if that's what you're accusing me of violence, then you can leave. That's not true. I don't support violence of any type against police officers, against anyone. So if you're accusing me of that, then you're welcome to leave. But if you want to have a conversation, I am more than willing to welcome a conversation with you. I don't disagree with you about there is a narrative across the country that could be harming police officers. But we don't know right now, as someone who's in law enforcement, if that was the actual cause of it. Go ahead.
Let me ask you this. Do we know that generally the American law enforcement officers are racist? Do we know this?
Well? What was the question again?
Go on.
I asked a question.
Do I know American general law enforcement are racist? I don't think anyone is accusing. If you're insinuating that people are accusing or saying that law enforcement across this country as a whole are racist, then your assumption is wrong.
First of all, this whole anti-police rhetoric is based on a lie. There is no data, and you know this. There is no data, there is no research that proves any of that nonsense. None.
You'd have to be more specific about what data and what nonsense you're talking about.
That law enforcement officers treat black males different than white males in policing in these urban centers.
There is data that's.
There is not data.
No. The president spoke about it. Cedric Alexander, who is a law enforcement officer. The president has been lying about it. He said it again the other day when he said black males are 2 times more likely to be shot by a law enforcement officer than white males. Don, that is a lie.
White people actually.
So that is a lie.
That is a lie.
White men are much more likely to get killed.
That's the FBI stats. Are saying that they're more
Especially
likely.
now. White cops don't even want to touch a black man. At this point.
So that's data and stats right there. Mr. Sheriff Clarke is saying is correct. That is, white people get shot by police officers at a faster rate than blacks. However, we kill each other once again at a faster rate than all of it.
Actually, the data shows that we're more likely to kill white people quicker than they are to kill us.
Yep.
That is not a lie.
It is a lie.
Yes,
Show me.
Research.
Show me.
The research
Show
that
it to me
that we have from the Washington Post. That
the Washington Post debunked that nonsense.
There's also research.
He also said
Sheriff,
this time.
There's also research.
He continues.
A Harvard professor that also showed that black people are treated more aggressively by police officers.
No, you are wrong
people.
in your interpretation of that Harvard study, because I read the study. That's not what he said. He said he was surprised to find
that in shootings of the most severe in shootings that he found no evidence that there was a difference. Also, it should be noted that that study was a very small sampling of police departments across the country. Many people did not find it credible, but it is also interesting that in that research, he found that blacks were treated differently.
So you see what he did there?
Yeah.
He brought up a study, and then which the sheriff
read the study too.
He read the study too.
Yeah.
Then Don, it said just what the sheriff was saying.
Yeah.
There was he was surprised to know there was no difference at all.
So Don knew that.
Then he said it and glossed over it really quick.
Yeah.
See, this is why normal people like the sheriff shouldn't go on mainstream media, because it's all a lie.
It's all a lie.
It's theater.
Yeah.
There's so many videos of Don Lemon being a normal human being, and especially the way he talks about Black America. And he's right when he talks about Black America and back in the day.
Yeah, not now.
Now,
Not Don Lemon now.
He realized there's more money in playing the game.
You're right. He knows that this is actually really incredible that the sheriff.
But this live, so there's not much they could do. So
the sheriff is
annoyed.
Man, he's annoyed. I think he's more annoyed because he knows Don knows the truth.
And he's a cop. You're crapping on his profession.
I get more annoyed with people when they actually know the truth but are regurgitating lies than I do with people who are actually ignorant to the actual truth. So when people don't really know, there's people I know that don't look at data, FBI, they don't look at any of that stuff. None of that statistics. They don't read any of it. No Harvard, no studies. Okay, none of that. Those people are just ignorant to facts, and they remain ignorant on purpose. They just don't want to know. They don't care, right? So I'm not really mad at those people. Who I do get mad at, though, and I get annoyed with, are people like Don, who have read all the facts, have all the data, and still are pretending.
He's trying to manipulate the conversation.
Differently when it came to aggressive policing, but for the most egregious shootings, he found no difference. That's what that study showed.
Well, based on what? Just generally? Are we talking about high crime areas? Are we talking about police officers being under attack? Because let's go back to where this whole thing started in Ferguson, Missouri. The lie was hands up, don't shoot.
Lumping a whole bunch of things into one. If we can do one specific
That's
thing
where this whole phony movement started. It started out as hands up, don't shoot.
You're talking about Black Lives Matter.
Right.
Okay. So if you want to, you would need to speak to someone who is a member of Black Lives Matter about whether they have perpetrated a fraud on the American people. That's up to Black Lives Matter. That's not me. I'm neither a member of Black Lives Matter, I'm neither a supporter or someone who doesn't support them. I simply report on Black Lives Matter.
Do you condemn the anti-police rhetoric coming from this hateful ideology?
As a journalist sitting here on television, I don't have to condemn anyone, anything. That is something that you should ask other people around the country.
I condemn
their jobs to condemn
just
that.
like I condemn the hateful ideology out of groups like the KKK. All right? I condemn it. There is no place in American discourse for that sort of vile, vitriolic hate coming out of this ideology. This has fueled and fanned the flames of this anger toward the American police officer. There's only one group in America, one time, that truly cares about the lives of black people in these urban ghettos. And it's the American police officer who goes down there on a daily basis, puts their life on the line to protect who? Black people. So when you say we just want to have a conversation, let's have a conversation about the black on black crime, which kills more black males, which is more of a threat to any black male in the United States than a law enforcement officer.
Sheriff, yes, that's a different conversation. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. There's an issue when it comes to violence. Black on black crime, or it's crime. White people kill white people, tend to kill white people. Black people tend to kill black people.
Not in the numbers.
That's fine, but that's a different conversation.
I don't care who white people are killing.
That is a different conversation than police brutality, and we're not having that conversation right now. And again, I want to be very clear with you. I condemn all violence of any type, just for the record.
Was the situation between Mike Brown and Darren Wilson, was that police brutality?
But we're not talking about Mike
yes
Brown
or
and
no?
Darren Wilson.
I am.
No, if you're asking me what the Justice Department showed, the Justice Department showed that it exonerated Officer Darren Wilson, and that the hands up, don't shoot narrative was a false narrative. That has been reported by CNN and by others.
And that was another phony report.
What does that have to do with Baton Rouge, Louisiana?
All right, because when you take in
what does that have to do with Baton Rouge, Louisiana?
Rates of involvement in violent crime, and crime in general, but violent crime, you're going to see that black males are overrepresented. Overrepresented in terms of being involved in violent crime. That's going to mean more arrests. That's going to mean more people going to prison. This stuff has already been debunked.
Sheriff, that's a different conversation.
Every time you don't have a response to something I say, you say it's a different conversation.
I don't have a response to you. Is that we're having two different conversations. I'm asking the questions here. You're answering the questions by asking questions about some other subject that we're not discussing.
We're talking about this hateful ideology called Black Lives Matter. You said you're not a member. You can't be a member. It's not an organization. There's no structure.
That's what you're talking about.
It is an ideology, and it is a hateful ideology.
I understand it's a very stressful time for you.
These individuals.
And Sheriff, we appreciate you coming on.
They preach vile and vitriol in the name of virtue.
Yeah, thank you, Sheriff. We appreciate it.
He gave him the Oscar music at the end. It's time to wrap it up, Sheriff. Yeah. Look, Don Lemon knows what he's talking. He knows what he's doing.
Huge tool.
And the sheriff there is realizing that he realizing that, Mom, I'm gonna go ahead and challenge this guy because he looks like he's about to give a BS interview.
Yeah.
See, the real conversation that we should be having is really all of them. Okay, there's nothing. I'm not against talking about police brutality. Obviously, it's all a thing. But the problem is that Black Lives Matter centered it around black people mattering. All right? And the irony of it all is that black people are killing each other at the most rapid rate out of all of this. So, what Sheriff is not like he's changing the subject, he's trying to show that we're talking about the wrong thing. There is disproportionate talk here, okay? The real talk needs to be that the black community is having a huge problem with crime. That's the talk, right? But what they're trying to do is gloss over it with the police stuff, right? Now, police brutality does happen. It's a disgusting thing. It's not as prevalent as it is with black on black crime.
Because the neighborhoods that they're trying to take police from are the neighborhoods that need the cops
The
the most.
Yeah.
They're the most vulnerable because people like Don Lemon can afford security and private security.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But the regular people, us.
Right.
You know, the cops are our security. If we have
Yeah.
to call somebody, we have to call them. And in particular, if you live in a neighborhood where it's riddled with crime, you want the police to show up.
Yep.
You don't want them not to show up or be afraid to take, to protect you because they're afraid that they're going to, be on the, news about
Because that's what's happening
some
now.
racist thing. It's
Yeah.
like the guy that was on the train. What's his name? Neely?
Oh, yeah.
That killed the black guy that was the Michael Jackson impersonator. I can never remember his name. But I mean, like, this guy was a good Samaritan. But they made this into a black and white issue. And this guy protected, he's a Marine.
Yeah.
He protected the people around him. And now he's being called racist and making it seem like they lynched this black guy on the train. And that's not true.
That's
Me
not
and
what
Danielle
happened.
lived in New York for 10 years.
Those
and I've seen
Homeless people are
people
really
like this man on the train where they just
it can get bad.
they can get bad. They throw stuff at you. They fight.
They'll
they
follow you
argument,
home.
They get in your face.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like homeless people, mentally ill type people. I've seen them actually push kids. Like
Remember
that's
saw that
not
one day.
an abnormal thing in New
Yeah.
York. Especially if you get on the trains. And so here, this white Marine, protects all these people. You know what I mean? And this guy's going crazy, protects all these people. And now he's being called racist and being drug into court for murder. And I just think, like, this is what I mean. It's like when it comes to the cops are the same. Cops are human beings, so they're flawed. You will find flawed cops.
Yeah.
You're not going to get away from that. But you'll find flawed black cops, flawed women cops, flawed Asian cops.
Yeah.
Because they're humans. Humans are
Right.
stuff happens with us. You know what I mean? And so my thing is like, cops are more likely to shoot white males.
Yeah. So what we have here are just a lot of black people and people like Don Lemon that are trying to keep the narrative on this one part and not talk about the very real big problem that we're having that's having a more, I guess, like a genocide within the black community. You know what I mean? And so I'm like, but we're not talking about that part. We just want to focus on this. And I'm not saying don't have a conversation about the retraining of police officers, the training in general. There's a whole, look, I can go on. There's a whole lot of things I can say about the police department. I know a lot of police officers. I personally know some police officers, and they even say.
Well, we had an aunt that was a cop.
Yeah, we had an aunt that was a cop. So they even say there could be better training.
She's a white cop.
Yeah, we need to have a lot of conversations. But when he's talking about this anti-cop mentality, that is accurate. That it's true.
Yeah.
There is an anti-cop kind of like feel out there that is making people hate cops. You know what I mean? And just in general. We've created this kind of narrative out there. We're supposed to hate the cops, and they're all just racist. They're all just doing this target practice out there, basically, with cops and black people. And I feel like that's what they're showing in the news, and people are just regurgitating the thing they're seeing in a loop.
Yeah.
As opposed to actually look at the real data. So you see what I'm saying? Like, I think that people, like when Don said, we can walk and chew gum at the same time, right? I can bring on that sentiment. We can talk about this one thing, but we really need to be talking about.
But he doesn't want to talk about
the
black
real
crime.
thing.
And
Yeah,
we commit a lot of crimes.
a lot of crimes.
So that means that we're in contact with the police more.
It's true.
You know what I mean? And so, but if you look at why we commit so much crime, you have to look at our culture. You got to look at the baby mama culture. You have to look at the hip hop music, the culture that makes us look like that, the Cardi B type stuff. You know what I mean? The like again, just the educational system.
Yeah.
We have a lot of problems that it's not because we're black.
No.
It's because of a culture of a people. And nobody cares. You never even hear about it. Like, you never hear any black wealthy person like Oprah or something really talk about that.